Lexi, you about ready?
Recording in progress.
Whenever you're ready.
All right, everyone, welcome to the Whitestown Redevelopment Commission meeting. It's November 7th, 2022, 7 p.m. Nathan, can we get a roll call, please?
You just asked for that, and that was the thing I was not prepared for. Sorry. I bring my list to make sure I don't miss anything.
English, please.
Interpreter. I'm getting there.
There we go. I'm getting there. I want to make sure I had the list up. Adam Hess.
Here.
Quentin Baum.
Howdy.
Eric Nichols.
Present.
Ken Kingshill.
Here.
Mark Pascarella.
Here.
Michael Berg.
Here.
Elizabeth Keith. Absent.
All right, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, looks like we're starting tonight's meeting off with a presentation from Crone about the TIF impact. You guys want to come up? Thank you very much for putting this together.
Thank you, Adam. I'm Jim Treat with Cronin Associates. I don't think I've met most of you before. Dialed into some meetings, but this is the first one I think I've attended in person. Make sure to meet. And this is also Nathan Fox from our office, and he works with me on a lot of this information. So I wanted to bring him along. Plus, he's my technical guy too. So I don't plan on going through this entire presentation, so you can take a breath on that, first of all. There's some key things, but as far as this slide, the first slide really just summarizes what your overall requirements are as a redevelopment commission for your annual reporting. You have your financial report early April, which has to go to the council by the April 15th. You have the determination of whether you have any pass-through AV that has to be done in June. You've done all those things, by the way. And then the neutralization every year, which Baker Tilly does for all the units in the county, has been done. And some of that information is on our next slide as well. So the one other primary reporting requirement is to have one of your meetings invite the overlapping units, which has been done, schools, county, township, etc. And just give them an overall presentation of the standing of the financial standing of the commission and what you've been doing with your TIF revenue and what you plan on doing with it in the future. So that's what we're going to focus on tonight. So I did want to touch on this next slide because it's a nice summary of where you're at now as a redevelopment commission with your areas. It's really the first 4 or 5 that are the significant areas, the ones that were created in 2014 and before, with Perry-Industrial, Maple Grove, Anson South, Legacy Core, and in the NDOT areas. But this is the latest information that we've got. This is based upon post-neutralization 22, pay 23 values, pending appeals and other adjustments that they make for next year. This is what the captured assessed value will be for the areas. It totals about $428 million for all the areas, and that is up from $369 million for this current year. So just to kind of give you an idea of the materiality there, those are the areas. It does have the creation year and the age of the areas. The next couple of slides, I don't know that this group, even the overlapping units, probably needs to spend too much time on the basic concepts of TIF. I can certainly answer any specific questions that you might have, but these are just standard slides that we like to put in here on how you create allocation areas and redevelopment areas, how the base then is established the year that you create the area or amend it, and then AV that's created after that date is what the captured AV is based upon that your TIF revenue comes from, with the exception of a referendum revenue. Again, the next one is a good standard that we use for these kind of meetings, but it illustrates the same thing as what I just was describing about what you capture, and then when the area ends in usually 25 to 30 years from creation, depending on what statute it was created under, then it all goes back into the overlapping units, including the town. Again, these are the 3 different statutes that the state has in creating ages of the areas, and to make it quick, it's 25 to 30 years generally, or once you've established a debt from that area payable from that TIF, it's 25 years from that date. So again, I think you guys are pretty familiar with all that. So this slide, it's page 8 on your handouts, is what we've done just to try to do a very quick summary overview of the current financial position of the RDC. And this includes the allocation funds. It takes actual balances from last year. We took actual activities for 9 months of the year, and then we projected with December settlement and what we expected to see the rest of the year, where you'd be at year end. So at the year end, we're looking at about $12 million in balances. I don't have a total on there, but trust me, I've added them up. But very simply on the revenue side, I mean, we have detailed breakdowns of all this, but really almost all that revenue is just your TIF settlement. There's a couple other small things in there, but 99.5% of it is TIF revenue. That totals about $7.7 million, and that's up from $6 million in 2021. On the expenditure side, we've got an estimate by the end of the year of about $4.2 million in total expenditures, again, for all the areas. And the vast majority of that, a little over $4 million, is debt service. And most of that, there's about $145,000 in capital outlay out of, I think it's out of Maple Grove, and then you pay professional fees and other, it's about $30,000 to $40,000 in there. So on the debt service side, again, I'm not planning on going through all the debts tonight. We have a debt presentation actually with the council in 2 nights. But the 2 biggest ones, Perry Industrial bonds that we refied at the end of last year, the 2021 A and B bonds, that annual debt service is $1.7 million, rounding. And then there's the other big one is the 2021 Anson South ban. That was a $7 million ban. The plan was, well, we weren't around when that was done, but the plan that was passed along to us is we want to try to use the cash flows in these TIF areas to Anson to repay that ban within its 5-year life, so that you don't have to issue a long-term bond in 2026. And we're on schedule with that. That's why you see the $1.5 million there, and we should be able to get that paid off and not issue any long-term debt. So those are really the key elements of your current financial situation. Any questions on that? If not, I'll just keep moving forward. Another thing we want to touch on, again, I'm not going to go through a lot of details, and Nate can answer questions or elaborate, but we've just highlighted the types of things that you're using TIF for. And in your case, really, the debt service that we're talking about, the bonds are really all issued for infrastructure, public improvements. In a lot of cases where we're issuing TIF bonds, we're using those funds to directly contribute to a developer's project as incentive dollars to their project. It's not really what the bulk of these are for. They are infrastructure that are needed for those projects, but they're all public infrastructure. So that's just a general list of the types of things you have been doing and currently doing, and it's really the same kind of things. And I think there are some other community improvement projects in the works that are going to be paid for from TIF. I'm not sure if you're ready to go over any of those yet.
Just say that within our 20-year capital plan, some of the major highlighted ones that we recall with the Rex development, we committed to a $15 million water park. The Ronald Reagan is going to be something that's going to be ballpark of $100 million. And parts are going to be developer, parts are going to be us having to pay for various funds. We just applied for a $10 million road project off the new interchange once it opens. And that's going to be a 30-40% match on that. And as we looked future phases on it, we've probably got about another 50-70 million in just road projects in that area that need done. And that's just to throw a couple out there to know that we do have some major projects coming. And as he said, with the ban, we took out the $7 million ban to complete the Main Street roundabout and Perryworth, which will be go out to bid next year. And we're trying to pay pay those off in shorter term to keep the rates down and plan for some of these bigger projects that are coming.
I think a note to make is that we're also continuing our discussions with NDOT concerning exit 130. As we see that 130, is it 2 or 131? What's the new number?
I think it's going to be 2, but I haven't.
Yeah. As we see, 132 is going to open up here soon. 133 is almost finished completion, but turning into that divergent diamond. We've still continued to push NDOT on exit 130 needs to be redone. We did that remodel of it about 10 years ago just to try and keep flows going, but we understand that there's still a lot of congestion there that needs to be taken care of. Even when the new interchange is open, it's still going to need to be an interchange that has to be worked on. It's going to be these types of funds that will help give us our local match necessary to work with NDOT so we can make that infrastructure improvement.
Thank you. And then the other area we really want to touch on is more specific, a little bit more to the impact on overlapping units. There is a lot of clear benefit, economic development benefit to the area. You're bringing in new higher wage employees, you're bringing in income taxes and other investments that really benefit the entire area. One of the things I did want to note here is the school districts that are involved, that are in TIF areas, both Zionsville and Lebanon schools. Since you do not capture any of the tax rates that are referendums, and the current year referendum for Zionsville schools, 39 cents and some change, and 28 cents for Lebanon schools. So whatever your captured AV is, those amounts which you generate from your projects that you've incentivized, those amounts go directly into the school. So, and we just shown a little history of what those are, and if we don't know what those rates will be for next year, but assuming they're the same rates or similar to this year, and using those new captured AV numbers, they'll be up. They're both about $600,000 this year. They'll be more in the $700,000 range next year. And this is it's a little harder to read, but it's one of the exhibits that we typically include when we do an amendment to a TIF area and send out a tax impact statement just specific to the creation or amendment of that TIF area, where we show a summary, and this is, I think this is for taxing district 19, corporate Whitestown. So we show the breakdown of the current tax rate, including the town, school, county, all the overlapping rates, and then we also have the assessed value that rate's based on, and the tax levy that's generated. Those are all out of the budget orders for this year. So, and the illustration we use is, if we were to pass through or not capture $10 million of the current assessed value and put it back into the taxing unit, what would that do to the revenues for the taxing units? Well, the next slide, if you turn to the next one, we've added $10 million to the AVs. And basically what it does, with the exception of the capital funds that are fixed rate funds, it adjusts your tax rate, or yes, your tax rate down to generate approximately the same levy. So you'll see that the tax rate falls about 2% in this illustration of $10 million, 2 cents, excuse me. And then the three cum cap funds generate a little under $7,000. So yeah, we don't see it as a material impact. And again, I like to highlight all the benefits of the economic development that you do generate. And really, those are the key things that we wanted to touch on tonight. And if you have any questions, or Nate or anybody wants to mention anything else that I've overlooked of significance, I'll be glad to yield the floor to them.
Anybody have any questions?
Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate the information.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the next item, the approval of the meeting minutes.
Mr. President, I move the minutes be approved as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion's passed. Approval of the meeting minutes from 10/3/2022. There's no unfinished business, so we'll move along to new business. Item A, consider the approval of resolution approving City Mark tax abatement It's resolution 2022-32. There,
Resolution 2022-32, resolution approving deduction application for area designated an economic revitalization area, City Mark Realty Partners LLC.
Nate, what's going on with this one?
Yes, so this one's been in front of you a couple of times already. It's City Mark project. It's 250,000 square foot, 87,000 square foot, and then about a 20-acre pad that could have a just under 400,000 square footer. So it's approving the abatements for those projects, and the stipulation condition on that is the 400,000 square footer. In exchange for doing this, the town has 4 years of tenant refusal rights. So if they're not bringing the kind of jobs that we're worried that, or if they're trying to bring the kind of jobs that we're worried the big warehouses are bringing, which are low-paying jobs, we can deny the tenant, or we deny the abatement. They can move forward without the abatement, but then they're building it on a spec basis with no abatement. It also has another 1 year after that, to where if we're close to finalizing a deal, we can extend it a year, and has language in there that will allow us to, if we bring a developer or project in, for example, so one of the state leads or something building off the LEAP district, and they insist on using their own builder, there'll be a clause in there, and they've put the language, the price will still have to be figured once they develop the land, but it sets a price on that land that we could go in and purchase that land off of, and even has the figures of it can't exceed more than X value per year, but gives us an opportunity in case we get a project that insists on their own builder and doesn't wish to use City Mark as a builder. So I think it's a great project. We've been working probably almost a year on this project, trying to get it through. There's been a lot of, between annexing it in, rezoning, working with the neighbors, buffers and other pieces. The neighbors seem happy with the project, with the concessions that were made. It even includes a buffer on the north side that is being zoned as multifamily for the future, because we didn't want the warehouses getting too close to the school and to 300 South. And then just the fact that they were willing to work on the 400,000 square foot building, to where it doesn't have to be that. We could put a 80,000 square foot there if it needs extra room, but we can work with them. Gives us the ability to work with marketing that piece of land.
Anybody?
No questions. I just want to thank City Mark for working with us on this and appreciate their cooperation. I know it's been a long process, but as Nathan said, for all those points and others, this is a good project to move forward, and I really do appreciate having the ability to coordinate and communicate on that future pad. I think that's a great asset for us moving forward, in a way that we can bring the project to a close.
Yep, I agree, and yeah, I just wanted to say similar sentiment, that I appreciate you working with us as we've made some changes here and giving us this opportunity to work collaboratively. So really appreciate the extra effort. So with that, can I get a motion to approve Resolution 2022-32, the City Mark tax abatement?
Make a motion to approve the City Mark tax abatement resolution 2022-32.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those in favor or against say no. All right, motion's passed. On to item B. This is to consider the expenditure for exceeding $5,000 of NTE $30,000 service with MS Consultants.
Yes, so the town has a standing rate fee with MS Consultants when it comes to water and sewer. They do a lot of design and work for the town. So what this project is, it's purple pipe. So purple pipe's not used a lot in Indiana. What it is reclaimed non-potable water. For example, our sewer plant discharges about 1 million gallons a day into a stream. As we continue to grow, that number goes up. That water can be captured, very minimal work done to it, and it be discharged through purple pipes as non-potable water. And the reason we're looking at this is, for example, we had a lead come through the state the other day, Project Oktoberfest, that uses 26,500 gallons of water a month. And with that, if we were to use this purple pipe, the cost difference, estimated projection savings of being able to send this reclaimed water versus drinking water, which is a problem anyway because we don't have quantity of drinking water, would save the company over $140,000 a month on their water bill. And that's worst case scenario. We believe it could be even better based off of the infrastructure, what it really costs, how close they are to the plant. So this is really just to do a study with MS to look at this, because while this one's averaging less than 1 million gallons a day, we've seen projects in the semiconductor industry and some other that are using ballpark at 3 million gallons a day. And so we could be looking at 3 times this savings. And when you're talking saving a company 5 to 7 million a year and just water rates, we think it's something that could really help us be more competitive chasing these leads. And then we just have to look at the discharge loss. Because, for example, a lot of these companies, you'll send them 1 million gallons a day of this purple pipe, and they'll send back 900,000 gallons. You're really only facing a 200,000 gallon loss, and we've currently got 1 million we're sending down the drain, down the creek. So it's just trying to find a way to capture that, utilize it, instead of sending drinking water for this purpose, because we do need the drinking water. We have a shortage of drinking water in the area. Obviously, the LEAP district and those conversations are there with the need for more water. So this is just a way to recycle the water for non-potable purposes for cooling in the manufacturing process.
Are there any other communities that are doing this in Indiana? Or?
My understanding is up north, they're kind of looking at it in the kind of Chicago, Gary region. As we talk to the engineers, and they've talked, there's no special permits. It's just a matter of doing. You just can't use it for potable purposes. Some states are recycling it for potable reasons, but Indiana has not allowed that yet and has not looked at that yet. Just the stigmata behind it. But the water we discharge is actually has to be clean enough, that way it's going into a body of water that live animals, people are in. So kind of a different thought, but we're using it for non-potable purpose, and our engineers think everything will work, but this study will give us an idea of what our maximum allowable will be, what our forecasted future will be, and what the cost of infrastructure to get to different regions. Some of the stuff we're looking at is close to the sewer plant initially. That way it doesn't have to go as far. But projects like the City Mark that just got approved, we'll even know a cost of if that site that we just mentioned, the 400,000 square foot, could get something going at 20 acre that needs this. If we're talking the point of saving $7 million a year and it's going to cost $10 million to get it to them, it might make sense to expand that purple pipe that far.
So is this exclusively commercial use right now? Is there any residential use, like watering lawn, things like that?
It's been talked about for not residential, because the difficulty in keeping the purple pipe and the blue pipe separate, but it has been used and discussed in golf course applications, for example. We talked years ago to GCI of looking at something similar, but we just weren't in a position to do the infrastructure needed for what the value return is. As we're talking some of these multi-billion-dollar projects that are wanting to come, that are bringing hundreds of high-paying jobs, then it has a lot more benefit in doing versus just watering grass.
The study at the end of the day, is that going to have an ESG component? I know that a lot of companies are bringing this to the forefront. And this could be a big advantage to us, not only on a cost-saving basis, but also just aligning with the corporate strategy of these companies as ESGs coming to the forefront in a lot of these site selection projects.
Good point, and I can definitely bring that up with the engineers as we look at. We put this at 30,000. The reality, they think it'll be around 24 to 25,000. So I'm sure there's room in there to ensure that we're looking at that also. I added additional to it in case as we went down the process, we decided as a town we wanted to look at another area or additional options.
It's
so
great. I'm just include that if you can, because that's something that could create a competitive advantage for us in doing that kind of study, that maybe if other communities aren't doing it, it allows us to rise above our competition.
Yeah, no, I'll make sure that that's included in this.
Great. Nice job. All right, can I get a motion to approve the capital expenditure?
Mr. President, I move that we approve capital expenditure not to exceed $30,000 as presented.
Is there a second? Second. Very good. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, motion's approved. All right, no other business. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Mr. President, I move you would do now adjourn.
Second.
Meeting's adjourned. Congratulations.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.